Hello. Hello from COP27 in beautiful Sharm el-Sheikh. There is so much going on in this COP. The levels of enthusiasm, the technical discussions are amazing, and I'm very, very honored to chair this session here in the Mediterranean Pavilion with many of you connected online. You're really welcome to join the session. We believe we're going to make a contribution on a topic of very, very high importance because we're going to look at the sector of water under the lenses of the involvement and the leadership of civil society, in particular youth and women. I'm very pleased to be here accompanied by two wonderful speakers. To my left, Madame Michelle Rubirola, Deputy Mayor, and actually the real Mayor of Marseille, if I may say. Green City, Lavela is as a green city, as you probably know. Very, very happy to have you with us. And to my right, Mr. Paul Nomba, a great friend and colleague from the World Bank and Global Director in charge of infrastructures. And very pleased that you are going to also talk to us today about water. I'm going to start with the speakers who are online. Very happy to have Almotaz Abadi, and thanks also for hosting us because this is the Mediterranean Pavilion. So Almotaz, thank you for making room for us in this session. Almotaz is the Deputy Secretary General in charge of water, environment, and the blue economy at the Union for the Mediterranean. So we're going to start with you. And then I will introduce each one of the speakers one by one. Maybe just continue. We have also Abir Ben Romdam, a member of the Mediterranean Youth Network, MediWatt, that you probably heard about, hosted by the CMI. Very, very happy to have you with us. Thanks for connecting. And we also have Mirna Garbi, who is also a proud member of MediWatt, and very, very good representation of the female competent members of this network. And then I'm also pleased to welcome Enrique Cifres, a water expert from Spain who has plenty of technical insights and experiences to share about how the civil society in Spain has been involved and has been part of the solution to the water scarcity problems in Spain. So I'm going to start with a question to Almotaz. We know, Almotaz, how much the UFM has considered the development of the water agenda a high priority for the UFM. You provide both technical and financial support, and you also empower women and youth to really help them drive water security in all the Mediterranean countries and beyond. So Almotaz, could you please share with us some of the good practices, some of the experiences that you have witnessed firsthand on this topic at the UFM? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Blanca, for your introductory remark. And we are very pleased at the Union for the Mediterranean to have managed to bring the youth and women in the water sector and link it to the climate movement and to put it at the center of the Mediterranean Pavilion. This is one of the main elements that we are working to in order to bring the right voices to the right places. And the best voice now is the voice of the young people. And imagine that the young people are also women, and this is very important for us to illustrate the fact that this is the success that we all doing with our partner as the CMI and beyond. As you said, the Union for the Mediterranean have advanced the UFM water agenda, which as said many times, the added value of this agenda is not only related to its science and what guidance that entail within its chapters, which is absolutely something very important, guiding document, but the most important thing that it was developed based on our mandate as a political organization, that every single action mentioned in this UFM water agenda and its policy framework of action was endorsed at political level. So the 43 at that time ministers of water, supported by the diplomat, had approved this document and introduce this narrative into the region that we have to look at the water sector as a sector that contributes to the stability, to the cooperation, as well as to the engagement of all segment of the civil society, including the private sector, including the civil society, and special focus on the gender mainstreaming, and to keep the youth and women on the center, not of the development of this agenda, but also to implement this agenda at national, sub-regional, and regional level. So to do so, we were engaged with many partners. You know, our role is not implementing agency. We are a drive to ensure the political will. We are the drive to ensure some kind of financial engineering, as well as some limited technical engineering aspect. But the most important thing that we are doing is building partnership around the topic. So the first good partnership that we have built during this march is the partnership between UFM Secretariat, Water, Environment, Blue Economy, and CMI in this specific field, where we were always looking after these marathon and sessions in order to engage and to capacitate young people to know how they can influence in the policy, and how they can make the water sector productive for jobs and entrepreneurial, which is very important in our region. The second element that we have managed to do at the work at the Union for the Mediterranean is to follow a structural and more sustainable approach toward engaging the youth. So from the virtue of the UFM youth strategy, which have been approved also politically at the level of 42 member states, this year we were busy developing what we call it the UFM youth engagement strategy in the water sector, where this was endorsed at water expert group meeting. We are going to start endorsing it with the various various partners, but we are waiting the launch of the UFM youth strategy, which will happen on the 24th of November. So following by that, we will start engaging with the social media to put this action plan of the youth engagement strategy in the water sector. So the main action that had been agreed on this element, it was a little bit long. 9 key programs have been identified and conceptualized. Most of them is about how to cope the challenges that we are facing at the Mediterranean region, from unemployment aspects, the climate emergency, and the water shortage due to the climate change in the Mediterranean region. So the program is aimed at trying to bring the mentorship for the Union for the Mediterranean citizen and the young people, in order to engage in the planning and to ensure that youth are integral part into the UFM work in water and not included as an afterthought. The strategy that we are talking about provide a matrix to showcase how the various programs are aligned and can be integrated with the UFM policy framework of action. But the most important part is not only at the regional level, because we need the young people and the youth and the women to be integrated in the governance, as well as on the management of the water sector at national level. Because we believe that at the Union for the Mediterranean, if we cannot address it at national level, then we cannot absolutely be successful at regional level. So this collective approach, yes, it depends on exchange of knowledge, exchange of experience, and success story from national state to another national state, respecting their specificity. But the most important thing now for us, how to convert these recommendation into policy influence and how to integrate them at national development plan. The second element of youth and women engagement that we are working with you, with GWB Med, with also other actors like UNESCO, WAB, is the gender equality in terms of financing to the water sector. So we noticed that the checklist of funding projects are lacking some gender equality aspects. So we are working on this gender declaration where we are trying to put what we call it gender and youth relevance to the initiative that we are trying to engage and to help our member state in order to fundraise or to create a financial partnership. So those elements of having youth and gender dimension to the projects, either infrastructure or projects that related to the capacity development, that they have to follow a result-based approach that also can monitor not only how many women participated in the event, but how many projects, how many initiatives were led by women, and how this will answer the questions in the Mediterranean region, which is the unemployment for young people. As you know, that 60% more, I don't like to go for the number accuracy, but up to 60% of our citizens are young people. 30 to 35 of them are unemployed. And if we look at the nature of our organizations like the UFM Secretariat, like CMI, what we are aiming to. We are aiming to enhance the socio-economic reality through cooperation, building partnership, and enhancing the GDP. So if we don't look at this angle, we will not be able to give a concrete answer for our future leaders, the young people. The last, and here is to conclude my remark on your question, is related to the climate emergency and how we can see the climate change. The climate change is not a sector. What we are doing, we wanted to respond collectively to the climate change and its impact on the region through the water sector. So one of the most important elements that we trying to advance is the water financing and investment, where in Cairo, 17, 18 of October, as a pre-COP activity, we gathered all the Mediterranean country. There were a high-level panel led by 4 ministers from different member states, with another 4 head of international organization, where we agreed on a declaration that if we wanted to invest and to make the best use of available resources from the climate funding, either GCF or GEF or other resources, that we need to best use the water sector in order to respond to the climate emergency in the Mediterranean, because now what we are talking about is 25 faster on term of rising temperature in the Mediterranean, but also it was proven that less water received in the Mediterranean region. That means we need to bring more water, and having this more water, it means investment. Investment need also young people in order to be ready to work and to advance bankable projects in terms of climate change. So the other element is capacitating young people to follow these approaches, to be able to develop a bankable from the perspective of not only sustainability, not from private sector or profitability, bankable in terms of climate funding. And this is another thing that young people can contribute if we wanted really to aim at sustainable change toward just and inclusive green and circular economy in the Mediterranean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Almotaz, for providing the overall approach of the Union for the Mediterranean. As you know, at the Center for Mediterranean Integration, we're delighted to continue this partnership with you, and you were very, very clear to say that actually the water smart solutions are going to come most likely from the youth, and in this group there is a large percentage of women who traditionally actually in this region have taken responsibilities vis-a-vis the management of water. We have many examples from Palestine and other countries where women historically have played a very important role. So we really hope that through their involvement, this will also contribute to create jobs in the region, and we will continue to partner with you. My second question goes to my dear friend Paul Nomba. Based on your experience managing projects of infrastructure at the World Bank and especially the water agenda, how do you think we could really make civil society, put civil society at the center of the agenda? How could we put them as drivers of the change, and how should we involve them? Thank you, Paul.
Yes, good. There's a microphone there. Oh, okay. There's another one there. Okay, I'll use this one. Thank you very much. I think, let me also thank you for extending the invite to me, and I'm pleased to be with you tonight, replacing my colleague Jennifer Sarah, who couldn't make it. She has sent her apologies, and I was very glad to come, not only because we're friends, but also because the topic is of critical importance to me. Now, before I respond to your question, I will just say maybe one big picture kind of message. For me, climate is the emergency of our time, and it's the emergency of our generation. I think we cannot sit here and think that this is something that will go away. We need to sit here and see and figure out a pathway for addressing it. And I would like to pause it. And this is one of the things that I'm taking away from the COP, is that we should not only look at climate transition as a cost, we should start looking at it as an opportunity for better quality growth, because it's a paradigm shift in the way we live, in the way we conduct business, in the way we're going to be producing either goods or services going forward. So that will be number one statement. Now let me bring it back to the region that I cover. Now the second thing is, when you look at the Middle East and North Africa region, which I cover, water is a critical challenge and is a livelihood. At the same time, water is also an existential challenge. 6 out of 10 people in the Middle East and North Africa region live in highly water-stressed regions. That's a fact. Like, the situation of water scarcity has become worse and worse years after years. What does that mean? It means it is affecting the livelihood. It means we need to change the way we use water. I'll give you 2 examples. One is from Iraq, the other one is from Morocco. In Iraq, we have met communities which used to live near a lake, that used to have abundant water, that used to provide opportunity for fishing, for livelihood activity, for economic income revenue generation. That lake has disappeared in few years. Not necessarily only because of climate change, but also because of the way we are utilizing resources. So climate has definitively affected, because with scarcity and low frequency of rains, I mean, the lake progressively has been completely dried up. The second example is from Morocco. Over the past 4 decades, the former king, Hassan II, invested massively in water resource mobilization infrastructure. I mean dams. They have built dams across the country with the idea that if you can mobilize water resources by storing them when it rains, you should be able to go through drought. But what has happened 40 years later, you may have dams, but if it doesn't rain, these dams are empty. Again, it means you need to change the way you use water. And across the region, one critical thing we see is that water is taken as a gift of God. It doesn't have a price signaling, and therefore its utilization is not always efficient. And this is something that we believe is critically important to start changing, and it entails changing the mindset of people, and I believe the main important asset we have to changing the mindset is the youth, because they can understand the climate challenge much better and can drive this change with their parents. Now, what are we doing really effectively in the region? I think all of that was just to say we need to empower not only women, but we also need to empower the youth in this conversation. And it affects everyone. I mean, the example of how water access or water challenges affect the youth and the young people are plenty out there. I think we have seen different initiatives, at least in the bank, that we have put together, which are really helping us to better understand what should be done. So what is the World Bank doing to support women-led and youth-led water solution? We have two areas of intervention. One is what we call gender inclusion. Everything that we do in terms of financing intervention has to demonstrate how it benefits to gender. So all our projects are gender tagged. That's the beginning. Some may call it just a bureaucratic exercise, but it helps you track how what you're doing in improving water accessibility benefit the different categories of users, particularly with gender-related, meaning the women. The second thing we have done there is that we have engaged with different kind of association and groups. One of the most engaged we have dealt with is Equal Aqua, which is well known, which brings together key water institutions which are aiming to accelerate the change and build evidence that we need in order to translate what I was advocating for earlier. We need better efficiency in the utilization of water. And this association, Equal Water, includes not only private sector participants, but academia and local and international organizations. It hosts a lot of utilities as well. And the advocacy work we have done really is translating into concrete impact at country level. So we can build on that, and I think we have examples here from different regions of the world which we can share with you, but not necessarily in our region, Middle East, North Africa today. I think we have done very well, for example, in Ethiopia, where just engaging through that association, we have been able to bring more women staff and in leadership position in the utilities. It's something that if you want change to happen and to take care of what are the issues that really are meaningful to women, for example, you need to have them where the decisions are made. Having them in leadership position, having them as staff in utilities is one step which I believe is critically important. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is youth inclusion. How do you make sure that what we do represent the views and the interests of youth? Here, I would like to relate to the job dimension. The main important thing for inclusion for any human being is having access to a job. And when you do water project, most of the water project we do creates a lot of opportunity for job creation. And these job creation opportunities should be designed in a way that they benefit the youth of the communities where these projects are implemented. And you can only achieve that if you're engaging with them as well, because they can also come with solutions in how you need to address the problem that you face in these communities. You mentioned earlier the example of Palestine, where I think the youth engagement has been very effective, and this is probably only one example, which I believe we can really spend time discussing. But it has been very effective example that has been documented, how it has helped us not only to innovate, but also to address the challenging issue of water that they were facing. My next point, which I really believe I should say, is how we can take this forward. I would like to relate here to one example that we also developing on the energy side, which can benefit the water system. Again, you know, we have just launched at the World Bank in the MENA region a regional initiative for women in the energy sector. And as you know, the issues of water, energy, and food are closely interrelated. And what we have learned by doing our country climate diagnostic reports, we have done 4 of them in the region. 1 for Morocco, 1 for Jordan, 1 for Egypt, and 1 for Iraq. What we learn is that you're dealing with 3 kind of mega crises. And these crises affect the stability point that our friend was talking about earlier. One is the water scarcity issue, which leads to water security. All countries are concerned about it. I will give you an example right now on that. The second part is food security, which is closely related to lack of water. The less water you have, the more food security issues you're going to have. And the third part is energy security. Because for that water to be made available to the consumers, you have to treat it, you may have to pump it, and if energy is costly and expensive and non-reliable, you will not be able to go that far. So if we go back to water security, why is it so critical? When we did the CCDR for Morocco, what did we find? We found that in Morocco, if we were not to address the water scarcity issue that are increasingly growing, Morocco may face massive migration from some rural areas to urban area over a period of the next 25 years. Up to 2 million people leaving their communities just to search for opportunities to survive. How do you deal with that kind of migration? It's a question that we need to think about. It's related to water, because when water is not available, life is not just possible. And then food security. I mentioned the example of the dams that built. But if the dams have no water, how can you continue to increase productivity in your food supply chain system? So you need to be able to have water, but here the point is, how do you make sure that the water that you have, you're using it efficiently? Jordan, 50% of the water that Jordan produces today, and Jordan is a water-scarce country, is dedicated to agriculture through irrigation. And that 50% of water dedicated to agriculture is not necessarily going to crops that Jordan probably needs the most. It's going to crops that Jordan is exporting to earn hard currency. So that conversation also has to take place. And the youth getting involved could probably help countries take this kind of discussion. And the most critical issue that we also find in Jordan is that 50% of the water produced is lost because of inefficiency, leakages in the system, lack of maintenance. So you produce water which is so scarce, and you're losing it because you have an inefficient system. So again, it tells you that you need to invest more into reform, into better management, not necessarily only into new investment. So maybe the next round of investment should not be hardware, it should be about institutional and policy reform. So all of this, just to tell you that at the World Bank, we have been going through this agenda, and I really believe that at this juncture, given the challenge that we face, and given the reality of climate change, it is the youth who can really help us to step up. And that's why building coalition with the youth is critically important. Let me stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul, for providing us such an excellent and comprehensive approach, and that shows the strong commitment of the World Bank to the sector, and also to putting the youth at the center of the agenda. I now turn to Madame Rubirola. C'est un grand plaisir de vous avoir avec nous. La ville de Marseille, the city of Marseille, is truly committed to the SDGs and to environmental sustainability over time, particularly in the water sector. And you have been a leader. So can you tell us, what is your vision? How does Marseille, now we're going from the global to the city level, Marseille as an example, how does Marseille plan to achieve this sustainability over time, environmental sustainability, and particularly in the sector of the water?
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to speak about my city, which I think illustrates very well the inequality between the north and the south in terms of access to water, but which also illustrates very well the way in which global warming will seriously catch up with us and impact our water consumption. First of all, I would like to remind you that we have experimented in France the driest summer ever recorded since the beginning of the measurement in 1958, and that the city of Marseille is suffering the onslaught of heat waves day after day. And if we have put restriction in place, we can still say today that we enjoy a privileged situation that we owe to the Canal of Marseille, which provides us with water from Durance Canal throughout the year, canals that should be preserved. We made this choice to consider water as a common good, and if in Marseille we have no supply issue, in solidarity with all the stakeholders in the region, we made the choice to optimize the operation of the channel and our consumption. And here we meet with good outcomes. In 30 years, Marseille has reduced its annual water consumption by 100 million cubic meters. From 260 million cubic meters, the city has reduced to 160 meters. A significant delta that represents the equivalent of the consumption of a city of 300,000 inhabitants that it saves each year. This control of consumption is also explained by the implementation of important prevention measures made by the city and the company that we have chosen to manage the water network, which are working and which lead to collective awareness, as evidenced by Marseille's consumption this summer. Over the year, overall, less than 5% of available flow rates on the Durance are taken. In summer, we got up to 10%. We feared that the amount taken would increase sharply this year. But this is not the case, because people are playing the game of restriction despite the drought, and we are now consuming more than usual, which is very positive. It's also the advantage of having in Marseille a large proportion of inhabitants originally from countries where water is scarcer and who, in fact, have a moderate use of our blue gold. That was a pretty picture, but I see at least two major reasons to worry about the future and which justify making the necessary effort now to reduce the water stress that is coming. First, the heat in the city, which will increase, will mechanically lead of overconsumption in the future if nothing is done. And the choice we have to make between watering laws and cooling fountains so that people can drink. And that is what I would like to stress here. It is water issues also to throat developments are involved in other areas. This requires a new way of imagining the city, more related to climate change. In Marseille, we are carrying out a pilot project called Resilient City Center. We want a return of nature in the center, to install cool islands, to de-waterproof the soil. We will eventually stop cleaning our streets with plenty of drinking water and install a secondary rainwater network instead. We also want to multiply the fountain. In short, we seek to set up this virtuous circle with aims to lower the temperature in city centers and by extension, water consumption. Secondly, I told about the Durance Canal, that 215 kilometers canal which feeds the Marseille Canal. The Durance itself is fed by a lake, the lake of Serre-Ponçon, which itself is fed by the glaciers of the Alps. And this is where global warming will impact us. We depend on the glacier located more than 300 kilometers away from our city and which are shrinking year after year. Inevitably, if we have to act locally, we must also act globally to slow down this melt. Also, it will be necessary to reconsider all the use from this canal, in particular agricultural, industrial and energetic uses, because you understood it, our city, arriving at the end of the chain of 215 ski canal, many actors upstreams will have the temptation to use regardless of Marseille, located downstream. Without forgetting that the danger also threatens the organisms and live in these waterways, such as and insect larvae. Mediterranean fauna has a physiological cycle adapted to Ça marche pas. It is before the whole circle of biodiversity that is disrupted. The vegetation bordering that watercourse and which must provide shade to watercourse can no longer develop. In short, cooperation between all these actors and stakeholders will be necessary to avoid any conflict of use of this precious resource.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madame Rubirola. I am sure that Marseille will continue to be a good example to other cities in this adjustment between supply and demand. And thank you also for your engagement to the global objectives and not just the city objectives. I'm going to change a little bit the script because from Marseille we're going to travel now to Valencia. Enrique Cifres, Vice President of International Commission on Large Dams from Spain. He has been involved in a lot of innovative actions in Valencia and in Spain, particularly with the hydrographic confederations, Confederaciones Hidrográficas, which is in a way a model for the rest of the Mediterranean. So Enrique, thank you so much for being with us. Buenas tardes, bienvenido. I would like to ask you, in your experience, how do you think we could involve better civil society so that they can influence decision making? And can you share with us some of the good practices related to the Confederaciones Hidrográficas today? Thank you so much, Enrique. Bienvenido. Enrique, perdón, no te escuchamos. Creo que tienes el micrófono apagado. I'm sorry. We could not hear you, Enrique. Can you start? Okay. Ahora.
Now,
okay.
Ahora sí.
Ahora sí. Vamos.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you for your invitation. It's a good opportunity to this challenging debate because really since '92 in Rio, all the countries were engaged in improving the participation of public society in decision making, especially for environmental issues, and water management, of course, is one environmental issue. And then really was a challenge, but nowadays COP27 really is Rio plus 30. And we are still in the way to improve the implementation of the real and useful participation of the civil society. This participation evolved from, at the beginning, was only distribute information, public hearing, then empowering the communities in the in the processes, but finally we have to reach really win-win solutions where all the stakeholders feel really that they are winning. And we are in the same challenge for fighting climate change and global changes, and we need a real good participation. One key in designing participatory process is having a good map of factors. If the map is not good, the result is not for sure will fail. And in this map of factors, the women have to play a very major role because not in many regions in the world, women are responsible of providing water for their families, but also facing climate change. We need to remake the patterns, the consumption patterns of the society, and also the women are key actors in this other many other things, of course. And then going to the point that Blanca asked me to talk about the Spanish experience, and really Spain took advantages of the Islamic heritage. You know that Spain was under Islamic culture during many centuries, and still in Valencia, I am in Valencia. In Valencia, we have still the Valencia Water Court working since 9th century. It's an Islamic institution that is still working and was taken as a model for creating the confederaciones. Confederation is the name at the beginning was the name was Syndical Confederation of the Basin. Syndical was because was created not by the government but by the users as an organization of the users in order to find fair solutions for basin management. In 1926 was created the first one in the world. Americans say that Tennessee Valley Authority was the first, but not, was later. The first one was in Spain. And of course, they need to improve a lot of things, but was the base of the river basin management, including, not including, but based on the participation in different bodies with stakeholders, users, especially users, agricultural or cities, etc. And we have this experience was at the beginning was the model for the, you know, that now one of the main concepts for water management are the integrated water resource management, but also the integrated river basin management. That this is one of the European community spread out in for the legislation in all the European countries, and but not only in Europe, of course. But we have to recognize that there is a lot of things to improve and to learn about a real participation that is a fair participation. What really we are putting on the table of the things and reach for achieving solution, win-win solutions. And then that model was based, as I said before, in some Islamic institution, and unfortunately was lost in other countries in North Africa. But I think in Egypt there is still some bodies similar that is for solving the problems among the main users. And then this is a way to real participation of the society, the civil society, not imposed by the governments. And another thing that is connecting with the young community, the youth. I am also, as mentioned Blanca, I am talking also on behalf of the International Commission on Large Dams. This is a very, very old organization, really is an NGO, 100 years old, because it's organization, not the governmental, involving all the engineers working in this field. And we realized some decades, perhaps 20 years ago, that we need to change our way to think about water management. And one of the things is to move forward for a new concept. Dams, of course, has a very bad image among the population, and the question is not to give speeches to convince the people that are good or not. This is the society is there, and we have to work not for the society, but with the society. This is a new paradigm, and we are trying to impose. But the question of the age of the people is an issue that we have to solve. And then we recently in 2020 we released some guidelines for all the technical committees in order to enhance the participation of the young engineers in the organization, to enhance, because they have to took the responsibility and they had to be involved as soon as possible. And this is we create a young professional forum involving not only engineers but sociologists, geologists, environmentalists, etc. A multi professional forum in order to be sure that they will play a key role, because they have to took the responsibilities in the next future. And then, of course, this is what we want to try. Is difficult. This is a difficult way to move up, to move forward for reaching these two main things. One is the real civil involvement of the participation of all the stakeholders, but in a broad way, to think about what is the map of factors, including women, including young people, but including all the stakeholders, but also to recognize that the decision making very soon will be in the hands of our young communities, and we have to give them the responsibilities to start playing a major role in our task.
Thank you very much, Enrique, for reminding us that actually the involvement of civil society in the water sector dates from centuries ago, more than 9 centuries ago. It's not something we have invented recently. And also thank you for reminding us of the active role that the young engineers and experts can play in the context of the association that you represent. Now, we have been talking about the youth, but now we're going to hear from the youth. The Center for Mediterranean Integration, we believe that the youth must be at the center of everything we do, and I purposely kept them for the end, because we can say whatever we want, but their voices are more important, because they are there, they're innovative, they are very, very knowledgeable because of their own research projects, they are together because they're part of a network, and I'm very, very proud to now give the floor to Abir Ben Romdam from Tunisia. Abir, we are very happy that you're with us. Tunisia is a very good example because they have put climate change and water scarcity at the center of the agenda, and it's even reflected in Article 45 of the new constitution. You are a Tunisian water activist. What do you think, from your perspective, is missing? What can we do to really make sure that women and youth participate in shaping and influencing water policy? The floor is yours, Abir.
Thank you very much, Blanca, for the introduction, and also I want to thank CMI for inviting me to join this session and for providing this dialogue space involving youth and women around those issues. And also I want to thank UFM for convening this pavilion. I am really happy to be with you, all of you today, even in virtual mode. So starting, I want to say that if there is something clear for me as a young water activist especially for the last years, is that water and climate change are interconnected and linked, but there is something more evident is that women and youth are in the center of these issues, and all the previous speakers are very well talked about that. So Blanca, regarding your question, I think in order to better facilitate women and youth participation in shaping water policy, we need essentially to make efforts to put them, women and youth, in the center of water agenda and decision making, like said also Al-Mu'taz. It's not, but it's not only by collaboration and cooperation in water sector, but especially in meaningful participation of different stakeholders and for different level, at local level, regional level, and international level. And I want also to say it's not just about increasing also youth and women's representation in councils or committees, or creating a new general legal framework, like mentioned also the speaker from World Bank. Although those actions may be necessary, it's mostly about integrating and engaging women and youth in all the policies in a cross-cutting manner, linking water and other relevant policy area. We need concrete action plans involving youth and women at the top of priorities, and also we show today great examples from our network, and also from the experience shared with the other speakers. Also, the other thing that I want to say, also we need investment in education, awareness raising, and strengthening all the capacities. All those activities can really help to better engage them, to have women's and youth a better place in society, which increase the opportunities availability for women and youth to enter policy decision-making space. And finally, we need to join all the efforts to build and to invest on the existing experiences, to better engage them and involve them in water and climate agenda through those type of dialogues, space, or platform. Thank you, Blanca. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Abir. And all I can say is that together with the partners represented here, we renew our commitment to you, to Mediwatt, and we really hope to involve you in all the action plans. And we also want to listen to you, so please don't hesitate to let us know where you need more support, and we will together, I believe, we can make this network, Mediwatt, much stronger. And I also want to ask now Mirna, another member of Mediwatt, to tell us in her experience, how Mediwatt has worked for you. What else can we do? What is the network bringing for you, in addition to putting all of you together to make you more effective? What is it that we could do? That's the question, Mirna. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Blanca, first for the very nice introduction, and thank you for giving the floor to youth to express themselves here. First, I would say that I'm really very honored to be representative of Young Women Voice in such big event, and like to transfer our experience. Thank you for the question. I would say certainly developing relationships and engaging in conversations. And here I would talk about the water sector, because the network is basically working on water sector. Actually, this helps to build knowledge and improve effectiveness to address water management challenges. However, in water sector, like any other sector where managers and water professionals are facing really dealing potentially devastating challenges, there are a lot of promising technical and managerial solutions that are being emerged in the meanwhile. However, the problem here, getting the right solutions to the places they are needed is really very problematic. And I think one of the very good examples that can create a very effective platforms are networks of professionals. And I would say that MediWatt has proved really that it has been always being a very fruitful platform to link people who have ideas and solutions and really very promising initiatives, but also linking them with people who are looking for these solutions, because it's a network of young professionals, but these young professionals, they are researchers, they are future policymakers, they are working on different water-related topics. So in that context, I would say that MediWatt has been for me, when I joined it was like in 2018, has been always for me the perfect example for a youth all of society engagement. This is how I call it. I think it's really a very perfect definition for the network. And what I like about it, what was really the value, the added value for me, is that it created a very perfect space for building a shared vision between people with different visions, because we are coming really from different countries in the Mediterranean with different perspectives. So MediWatt has proved how it's possible to create a space with shared vision between different young categories. I think what I really succeed to achieve through the MediWatt, it's really a nice question, was the fact that I looked always to MediWatt as an ecosystem, a whole ecosystem of young people that are engaged in water cooperation while focusing on different water topics. And I think from my own personal perspective, MediWatt succeed to bring to me the knowledge of how anticipating windows of opportunity. This is how I call it, because there are really plenty of opportunities. You should just know the way how to tackle each opportunity and to convert it into action. So the thing that I achieved, that I was really able, I really learned how to get this ability to anticipate the opportunity while working within appropriate cultural norms, but also political contexts that are really in addressing and contributing to policy, to shifting policies or to making policies more effective. So here in that context, I would say one of the things that MediWatt helped me to achieve is especially that my background is research. I'm basically an engineer in oceanography. So basically I work as a researcher, and here I'm talking from a point of view of a woman, a young researcher, but also a young entrepreneur, that it helped me training myself on being a researcher thought leader. And this what I mean, that being able to exploit your technical expertise in introducing innovative approaches and innovative solutions. And here, one of the main achievements that I succeed really to do within the MediWatt was actually to participate in the e-hackathon that was organized by CMI, MediWatt, and also CWAS. It was in 2019. It has been really a very good opportunity for young people who have very promising ideas in water and the climate change. So it was kind of a platform for all of that to express our ideas and to express our excitement. How much are we very excited to make all these ideas come true? So I was really lucky to work with a bunch of amazing people. We have been like 4 people working on an initiative, and then now after a few years, the initiative, we succeed to convert this initiative into a startup, and the startup was running now for 2 years. So basically, the startup was related to create a smart dashboard to better manage the irrigation systems. And also we have chosen Egypt as a first pilot country, actually. So basically, this was one of the main achievements. So as a researcher with a very specific technical expertise, I was able through this hackathon, for example, and through other activities that were organized by MediWatt, to understand how can I use my very specific technical expertise and make it beneficial for other innovative solutions that may be in the sector, but a bit far from this specific expertise. So basically, MediWatt succeed really, and I think this is not just for me, but for all of us in the network to teach us how to balance between the qualitative and quantitative training in water resources management. And I think this is really a very big thing. It's not really easy. It's really very complicated, but I'm happy and I'm proud that I joined such network, and I'm really very happy because CMI, they trusted these young people that were dreaming about the network, and then the network started to grow up like a baby, and now it's doing a lot of things, and that's why we are here now. So I think this was like, I don't know.
Thank you.
I hope it was like a appropriate answer to the question. Thank you, Blanca.
Excellent, Mirna. I couldn't have said anything better. And most importantly, it is your perspective that matters. So I want to say, you had you had the word of the end. I don't need to add anything after you. I just want to say that CMI believe in MediWatt, but it was also the World Bank. It was the World Bank's investment that allowed CMI to launch, finance, and run MediWatt, and now it has taken a life of its own. And what you said about the startups, I want to say that we want to continue. We helped incubate 3 winners of this hackathon. We gave them some seed funding, small, but I think it was helpful. And we want to repeat the exercise, and we want to, our idea is to scale up, to continue incubating these small startups coming from you, because you are experts, you know the real issues, and it's thanks to you that we're going to find more solutions that will be sustainable over time. I think that we're going to be disconnected. Unfortunately, we don't have more time for a second round of questions, but I want to thank everybody who is connected online, and all the panelists, of course, for being here, and the Union for the Mediterranean for allowing us to use this beautiful Mediterranean pavilion to host this very, very interesting session. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll stay connected, and we'll do something else, but maybe next time in Marseille. So you will all be invited, or in Barcelona, or in Valencia, or in Aragon. The first confederation was in my own region in Spain. So stay tuned, and thank you very much again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.